welcome to Friends with Deficits. I'm your host, Adam Sultan, and I'd like to start off by wishing you a Happy New Year and getting this 2024 off to a start with the first episode of the year by offering a special retrospective, you may say, of several of the past episodes, 10 to be exact, which feature one particular aspect that they all share, is that I asked the guests about the benefits of their deficit. In other words, gives them a chance to say the good news about the bad news, as the case may be. So we'll kick it off with an excerpt from the first episode I ever recorded called The Eye Opener with my friend Jeff Hoskins, who's a musician and a sound engineer and suffers from Stargardt disease, which is a macular degenerative disease that causes vision loss. So let's hear a little bit of our conversation. And with all of these, I may add, you can always go back and hear the full story wherever you listen to Friends with Deficits. What do you think? What are the advantages, if any, of Stargardt's?
You know,
or
I don't have to see your ugly face. I think the only thing I could say that's good is that it's given me an appreciation for basic stuff that you take for granted, which is what happens anytime, like, something bad happens, right?
Right. I guess so.
Like when you lose someone.
Yes.
You tend to appreciate the people that are around you more. Yeah. And realize that they're not, that we're all temporary or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of been the thing with this. Like when I see somebody who's completely blind getting around with a cane or whatever, like I don't feel as sorry for myself. You know what I mean? Because other people have it worse. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world.
Next up is my interview with Spectra Stewart from the episode, part 1 of 2 episodes. This first part called Super Sweat, Hyperhidrosis. Hyperhidrosis is the condition of being super sweaty. So let's listen to part of our conversation with Spectra Stewart. Is there any benefits of it?
Actually, there's a few. So I've never had to lick a stamp. I can almost seal an envelope as long as I don't try a paper cut. I have to go away from the end. Wow, that's a
weird thing.
But at the same time, if I touch something that has glue on it and it's sticky, and like a cigarette paper, I can't even touch those. The whole package will just stick to my hands.
Keeps you from smoking, I guess.
Yep, there you go.
Wow.
I can, like this couch right here, if it had dog hair all over it, I could go like this and delint it for you. I could just wipe it right off.
Nice. Mm-hmm. It's handy.
It's pretty cool. What else can I do? There's a lot of things that it's kind of like a suction cup for paper, so I can put my hand down and just turn a page like that.
Wow.
Not that
licking the page to turn the page.
Just the page sticks to my hand.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. There's very few things that it's good for. I can smooth my hair too. If I get little wispies and flyaways, I just go like that. It's like lotion.
It's like lotion. Next up is from the episode Special K, Spanked. Special K was the name of my guest, the anonymous name. He didn't want to make public his kink and fetish proclivities, which we discuss in the episode. What he did make public was his traumatic brain injury that he suffered. This is from our conversation. All right, here's an odd question that I ask almost everybody. Potential benefits of what's happened to you, if any.
I guess I could take the easy way out and say that I really cherish each day, and I'm so happy to be here. And to some degree, that's absolutely true. I have had to refocus and kind of recalibrate my body and my mind in a way that I have not had to do in a very long time. And that has been challenging but beneficial, heartbreaking in some ways. It's sort of sped up the clock. It sort of made me feel what it might be like to be 30 or 40 years further along. You know, I see a lot more doctors than I ever have. I take a lot more medication than I ever have, or ever thought I would, you know. And so it feels like a glimpse into the future in a way. And, you know, that's not bad. It's made me realize that I'm still going to be me, and I'm still going to be okay. It's been tough, but it's been kind of relieving to make that realization.
Next up is Austin music legend Kathy McCarty from the episode A Sea of Pink Circles, in which we discuss Kathy's face blindness or prosopagnosia. Here's what she had to say. This is a question I always ask on the show, is benefits of what you have.
Wow. That is an interesting, I almost can't think of an upside for this. I mean, it seems like, and I'm a really positive thinker too.
Maybe you don't get to deal with people you don't like, because you just don't recognize
I'm
them.
always coming at things with an open mind.
Yeah.
And I am very open-minded, and I'm an idealist. A lot of my beliefs are very humanitarian and sort of like above the fray, so to speak, because I don't have a lot of personal animosity from social situations with people because I can't have that. So I guess that's a kind of a plus.
Yeah.
I tend to be more abstract in my thinking, and also to deal with things more in a more elevated sort of ideal-oriented way. Like, for instance, I don't think things like, that person disrespected me and therefore I want to get even. I think more things like this, like, it's probably better if everybody has an opportunity. Like things like that. Like, it's probably better. And also, I never have hung on to like personal grudges and things like that for very long because there's no point.
Yeah. You can't hold on to the face long enough to be mad at it, right?
Well, it's more like, I can be mad at someone, like for instance David Dewhurst, because of his actions, things that he's done that I know about in a linear story type way. But I would never be mad at him for giving me a lousy tip because I wouldn't be able to connect the tip with his face.
Interesting.
Although he did tip poorly, as I recall.
Bodhi Prihoda was featured in a two-part episode. Part 1 was called From the Den of Thieves. Part 2, Badges of Honor. This is, I think, the only Friends with Deficits true crime episode, which recount his 30-year journey in and out of prison. Here's a question I ask on my podcast, which is a strange one, especially with this circumstance. But what would you consider the benefits of what happened to you?
There's a lot of benefits, a lot of soul searching. There was a lot of coming to terms. I blamed my family and drug use and alcohol use, and those were factors in this, but they weren't the main factor. The main factor was I was trying to be somebody that I was not. I was trying to be a tough guy when I really was a sweetheart. I was a soft, sensitive person. And the odd thing is, Adam, I always knew that I was faking it. when I was going through that. I always knew I was faking it. I think that that soul searching and that reflecting on what was real as opposed to the excuses that I was making have caused me to take a different direction. You know, karma is a wonderful thing. And not so much when you're caught up in your own karma, but my karma definitely made me change course, no doubt about it. I'm very grateful for that, to have the community that we have for that. And I don't know that I'd have been here without that. I can look at other people, family members, and other friends that I grew up with who didn't go to prison, but they didn't really change either. They're still blaming other people for their shortcomings, and they're still self-medicating and complaining that life isn't fair.
Yeah.
You know, so another thing is, like, as a kid, I was not a good student in school. In prison, I was an excellent student. I needed that discipline. I'm serious.
Careful what you wish for. Eh?
Yes, I was. I was an outstanding student in school.
My next guest is the host of This Podcast is a Ritual. And this is from the episode, What Would a Wizard Do? A conversation with Devin Person. Devin is a self-proclaimed wizard. When I met him, I don't think he was a wizard, but during the conversation, it became clear that he was. And it was very enjoyable. But it was kind of difficult to find the benefits of something that already seemed like it was rife with benefits. But I tried.
So I ask all my guests about the benefit of what they're going through, but usually the topic is something a little more detrimental to their health or something. So I don't know whether to ask you what are the deficits of being a wizard, or what has been the benefit to overcome deficits, or however you want to go with that question.
First and foremost, I do suffer from a rare joint condition called pigmented villonodular synovitis. And that plagued me throughout my 20s. It was a huge pain in the butt, but then it did lead to supporting my wizard transformation. And so that's one of those things where, you know, something that seemed bad ended up being good. And now I even wonder, I'm like, oh, would I be like would I be dead because I would have partied harder if I hadn't had to go rest my knee so often in my 20s? Who knows? I recently broke my pelvis, and I got to spend 6 weeks recovering at my in-laws' house, got to spend some time with relatives, see some other friends. Now I'm in physical therapy, and I'm working on an unrelated shoulder issue that I never knew who to talk to about. So there's silver linings if you look for them, and I think that's important.
The next two guests coming up are therapists living and working in Austin, Texas. The first of those is Cyndi Collen. Before she was living and working in Austin, she was in New York and was at the World Trade Center on 9/11. This is from my conversation with her. Here's a question I asked all of my guests.
Yeah.
What are the benefits, if any, of what you've gone through? Maybe that's a two-parter, or like a benefits of 9/11, I don't know, but also benefits of your health journey.
No, I'd love that question, actually, because I've thought about that. So the one thing that it did, the immediate thing was I was disconnected from current events. When we got to that cafe that I was talking to you about, I'm like, who the fuck is the Taliban? I've never heard of them. Why is Afghanistan like a part of what happened to me today? And I like to read the paper. You know, my whole family, we're all newspaper people, like keep up on current events. But I was a single mom and I was really busy. So anyway, it allowed me to re-plug in and to understand more of what was going on in the world, because whatever is going on all over the world, that can come to you. So it woke me up to pay more attention to other things outside of my own little world, right? So that was a good thing. The number two thing is to understand how important family is, and the security of my son and I, and how best to take care of us. So life got a little smaller for a little while in a better way. right? I think, because I maybe didn't take as many risks or go as far. Like even when I got the new job, they wanted me to go to India for like 2 weeks. We had teams that were over there that I was a part of, and I just was like, no, I'm not going anywhere without my kid anymore. So it just kept me closer to home, which was nice. It got me to move out of Manhattan because I had always thought I was going to move into New York City after my son graduated from high school. And all I kept thinking was, I want to come to Austin. I want to come back to Austin. It kind of got me back here. And it got me to learn more about me in all kinds of ways. So I'm kind of grateful that it happened, woke me up.
Do you find it hard to stay apprised of current events these days?
Nope.
Because I feel like so many people get so overwhelmed.
I know.
With all this stuff going on.
So true. Lots of therapy, lots of meditation, lots of good mindfulness. I can totally handle bad news because it's bad. It's a shitstorm, and it's not. And the horizon don't look good, but I can accept that and be with it and have it not bring me down. It's like I'm like a walking advertisement for therapy and mindfulness, because I always think about mindfulness as a way, like it's not like the cure in any ways, but if you can really accept the crap that is there just the way it is, that's really hard to do without like being really angry or really, like what you said, or overwhelmed. So it's been an evolution for me to be able to cope with that, but it's totally possible.
Next is from the episode Through Thick and Thinners, Patty Evers and Protein C Deficiency. Patty Evers has protein C deficiency, which is a rare disorder that increases the risk of developing abnormal blood clots. Here's what Patty had to say. This is something I ask all my guests, is what, if anything, would you consider the benefit of what you've gone through?
I honestly think that it has caused me to look at life very differently. Like there's not this very circumscribed linear path. It has really, really informed the way that I show up for my clients, because, before, where if I have to kind of envision myself and what kind of therapist I would be without this. And I think that I would be much more cookie cutter about my approach to things that I'm trying to help people through. But this has given me kind of a feeling of immediacy about life. You don't really have a whole lot of time to let other people dictate what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. And I push boundaries so much, just if you don't like that thing, don't let somebody do that to you. If you want to do that thing, go do that thing. Let's talk about all of the things that you were putting in your way to do that thing. There a lot of that. And also, strangely, when I've gotten people who have tried to go through kind of the medical establishment and have had such adversity and such gaslighting that they think it's them, and it's not them. They may have reached a point of just being upset and angry, and that's how they're seen, and that'll be in their chart. And then when they're trying to just be even and calm about something that they're saying, the person, the nurse or the doctor will read this in their chart, and they're immediately labeled as a bad person, as someone who's not going to listen no matter what you say. And then they're treated that way. So I've gotten a few clients like that over the years that, just need to hear that they're not crazy.
Next is Austin music extraordinaire Andy Nolte, who will tell you what he has and how he's dealing with it.
So what I have is voltage-gated potassium channel antibody-associated peripheral nerve hyperexcitability syndrome.
And we're out of time, folks.
It's literally exactly as it sounds. Like,
one more time with feeling.
We'll say it slowly so you can try to get your brain around what this is actually describing, because it's the whole condition in the name. voltage gated potassium channel antibody associated peripheral nerve hyperexcitability syndrome.
All right, here's a question I ask all my guests. What, if any, are the benefits of, in this case, voltage-gated potassium channel antibody-associated peripheral nerve hyperexcitability syndrome?
Okay, this is a weird side effect because of the fact that it like has been debilitating and crippling, like as far as like using my hands and like the way I play and stuff. The way I approach music and solos now is like a sushi chef or something. Like I'm like, this is all you get. This is what I'm going to prepare for you. Like I'll look at like I won't like just jump in and start writing notes unless it's important or like I feel like I need to. Like unless I feel compelled to like dive in and just like pour like some 16th note run or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's always like I'm going to play right now just this one thing that's exactly the thing that I want for right there. Like I play with a lot of intent now.
That's
like,
interesting.
I play with I think a lot more about what I'm going to play before I play. And play like with what's the best way to communicate what I'm trying to do rather than just like letting my hands have nothing to do with it anymore. Like there's nothing to do with muscle because that shit hurts. There's no muscle memory or like what's fun to play because nothing is fucking fun to play. Now it's all about what feels good emotionally and like what's my favorite note to hear.
That's like amazing. This makes you a better musician.
Well, it makes you thoughtful about it because it fucking hurts to play. Like it physically is demanding to pick up. So I don't even want to touch. Like I think about music way more than I play these days. Wow. I write things down and I think about what I'm going to do, and then I'll play like the one time. Like like I'm not going to rehearse anything. I never fucking rehearse anything anymore. I write it down. I think about it, and then I'll go and do it like on the day. Yeah. So that's still like the most interesting side effect is like because of the pain, it's made me a better player and a more concise player. Like
yeah,
I'm definitely like picking my battles now.
That's pretty good.
My final guest for this episode is Valarie Iosue, host of the podcast Dancing in the Rain, and from our episode Sir Thriving with Valarie Iosue. Mother, ballerina, kickboxer, fashion model. I don't know what she can't do. She's also a Wonder Woman, sharing her stories about strength and resilience, overcoming trauma and incredible mishaps. This was a kind of an overwhelming, but overwhelmingly positive episode, so I saved it for last. Although you won't hear the whole thing, you'll just hear the question about benefits once again. Hope you haven't tired of it, and I hope you go back and listen to some of these episodes. It was a pleasure making them, and I look forward to giving you more in 2024. Here is Valarie Iosue. That ties into the question I always ask all my guests, and you've pretty much answered it, but maybe you have some more or something different to say, is what, if any, are the benefits of all that you've gone through?
So I love that question, actually, because the biggest thing, this is another theme I have, I guess you would say, I never want to be perceived as a victim, and I raise my children to not look at themselves as victims, which would actually be really easy to do, to look at ourselves as victims, considering all of the things that we've been through. My message is very clear. Like, we are not victims, and I somehow feel stronger every time I go through something. And I see that my kids are learning that from me, which makes me really happy. And the interesting part for me is just, I feel like you do have a choice at some point. I feel like everybody has a choice. And I never want anybody to think that I'm saying getting through, different traumas is easy. It's not easy at all. But in general, for the most part, I have just decided for myself and for my kids the kind of life that we're going to have. And we are so happy. This new quote that I have is, "It's okay to be okay." And that started because I had lunch with a friend who recently lost her father. And I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Actually, I'm okay." And she said, "I know." She was almost whispering. We were at a coffee shop and she's like, "I know that sounds weird because I probably shouldn't be okay. My dad just died and everybody's expecting me to be like depressed." And I said, "No, it's okay to be okay." And right after I said it, I'm like, that's going to be my new thing, because what I realized is after my husband passed away and Sarah, my grandmom, everybody looked at me like, oh crap, like, what's going to happen? Is she just going to shut down and cry? And I started dancing. I do know some people were judging me, and that's fine. I mean, everybody's different and has a different perspective on things, and it doesn't bother me. But I know people were judging me because I lost 3 people, and next thing you know, I'm dancing and performing and having fun and living my life with the kids. And it's almost like I was a happier version of myself than I had ever been in my entire life. Part of that is because after experiencing so many and such deep loss, I started to appreciate what was left in my life. So it's like, okay, Mark's gone, Sarah's gone, my grandmom's gone, but we are still here and we still have to live our lives. And we have to make the best of every single day. And that's another thing I always say is all we have is now. And that's the name of one of my podcast episodes, because it's such a simple statement, but it's just so true. And if we could all remember that every day when we wake up, all we have is this moment, not even an hour from now or tomorrow or next week. Like this moment right now is all we have. And we just have to make the best of it. And I do really, truly believe you have a conscious choice. After you grieve, everybody has to grieve, and the grieving never ends. That's another thing I talk about, is that the grief of not just losing people, but, of anything that happens to you that's traumatic or upsetting, it's always still there, and you can revisit it and you can cry, and you have to process it. You have to feel your feelings. But once that's done, you can revisit it whenever you want. But in the meantime, you have to live your life, and I do think it's a choice. I think our society as a whole kind of has that message. Oh, you poor thing. Oh my God, you're a widow at 40 years old and you have 4 kids. It's so sad. Well, I could feel sorry for myself and shut down, but what good is that going to do? It's just very empowering. And that's what I'm trying to do, is to inspire and empower other people and just let them know that it's not just about surviving trauma. It's about thriving after trauma. You can actually thrive.
Well, all right. I feel very grateful for all the guests from this episode and from the dozens of other episodes that have made Friends with Deficits such a pleasure to bring to you. If you're interested in supporting the show, check out patreon.com/friendswithdeficits. Also, you can always tell your friends, subscribe, sign up for our newsletter on our website, friendswithdeficitspodcast.com. Once again, I'm Adam Sultan, and I don't have a clever tagline because I'd have to have 10 of them. So, hang in there. Oh wait, I got it. Be of benefit. Boom.